Hello. I'm James, and I live in Manchester in the UK. And you're listening to English with a Brew, a podcast where I talk about different day-to-day topics to help you learn English the most natural way possible. And that is only by listening to it. If you want to support this podcast, read transcripts, and get exclusive access to more content, go to patreon.com/English with a Brew. So, as we say in Manchester, get a brew on and let's get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening once again, and welcome to the 58th episode of English with a Brew. And in this episode, I'm talking about something a little relevant, because I'm talking about a trip or a visit to the mechanics, which is something I had to do recently. A mechanic is someone who fixes or repairs cars and motor vehicles as their job. And the mechanics is the place where they work and where you take your car. And I recently had to go to the mechanics, and so I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about the various parts of a car and how visiting the mechanics works here in the UK in general. I would say there are normally two reasons that you will need to go to the mechanics. And the first is if something on your car breaks and you need it to be repaired. The second is to go for your MOT. But what is an MOT? Well, an MOT is the annual inspection, the inspection you have to do every year of your car. And the letters MOT stand for Ministry of Transport, but nobody calls it that. I didn't even know that's what it meant before this episode. So everybody just says the letters MOT. Don't ask me why. And during an MOT, the mechanic checks your car to make sure that it's safe to drive. They check lots of things. They check that all of your lights are working. The headlights on the front of your car, the tail lights on the back of the car, and the indicators, the lights that tell other drivers which way you are turning. And, of course, your fog lights, so you can see where you are going if there is fog on the road, obscuring your vision. And these lights are obviously incredibly important, not just so that you can see where you're going, but that other people on the road can see you. They also check your tyres and make sure that they are not too old or too worn if they've been used a lot. And they'll check that they don't have a puncture and that there is still air in the tyres. They also check your exhaust and run an emissions test to make sure that your car isn't putting out or creating more carbon emissions, like carbon monoxide, into the atmosphere than is permitted, than is allowed. If your car passes its MOT, then great, you can drive your car away. But if it fails its MOT, the mechanic will tell you what needs repairing and how much it will cost. Some of the common repairs that need doing are usually replacing the tyres if they are too old and worn, or if you have a puncture or any other type of damage to the tyre, or changing the brakes, or more specifically the brake pads, so that you can stop quickly if you need to and avoid a crash. These repairs can be expensive, but not too expensive. And they're part of the responsibility of owning a car. But there are other repairs that can be extremely expensive and are more likely to happen if your car is older, like repairs to the engine, the main motor of the car, or if you need to replace the clutch, the part of the car's transmission that helps you change gears. That can be extremely expensive. And similarly, the gearbox, where the gears are. If your car is very, very old and one of these things needs fixing or replacing, you might need to decide if it's worth it at all, because it might be better or cheaper to replace the whole car instead. However, if you have the knowledge and the right tools, you can fix some of these things yourself. You can replace your light bulbs in the car, and it's incredibly useful to know how to change a tyre if you get a puncture while you are driving. And if you know how to change the oil in a car, you can do that more or less every year, and your engine will last much longer. But as always, some things are best left to the experts. What about you? Do you drive? Do you have a car? When was the last time you went to the mechanics? And did anything need fixing? Let me know. That's everything for today's episode of English with a Brew. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you did or if you didn't, and tell me what topics you'd like to hear me talk about in future episodes. And don't forget, if you want to support this podcast and get access to all of the exclusive episodes, you can do that on my Patreon page. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever time it is where you are right now. Take care.